I figured we'd just start on the Twitter stuff.
Like the Twitter Blue Sky stuff?
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I mean, you seem like you're really into it. I want
Yeah, no,
I want to
100%.
understand your take a bit more because it's hard to deliver these takes in a nuanced fashion
Oh yeah, no,
via
I agree.
a tweet.
So I am, I do a lot of creative stuff, and I'm, the community is absolutely filled with creative people that are artists, people that are,
Yep.
Game devs, all this kind of stuff. Generative AI is a massive problem. And the reason why it's a massive problem is because many of the generative AI models right now are actually using art that they don't have the licenses for and then producing commercial works out of this, and the artists aren't getting paid for this. It would be a fine situation if the artist is aware that this is going on, that they are being paid for it, that they agree to that, and then that licensed work is then being used, right? This is how it should be working, but in many cases it's not. So because of this, the general art community hates generative AI because it's being used incorrectly. Twitter just changed their TOS, and I'll go and send this to you here real quick. They changed their TOS and they added a couple of really just terrible lines, man. And it's very clear as to what's going on here. So I'm going to put this into the ping.gg chat there. I'm going to put it into chat here on Twitch and YouTube as well on my side. This is the old TOS for Twitter and the new TOS for Twitter. And the problem with this is they've added a couple of lines here. Specifically, it says, for example, for use with and training of our machine learning and artificial intelligence models, comma, whether generative or another type. They added this the other day, and they lost 1.2 million users to Blue Sky in 48 hours. That's what happened.
Well, we don't know if they lost 1.2. We know that other people created an account. Yeah,
Well,
they
so-
created an account. We don't know if are they daily active users now on Blue Sky?
We don't know if they're daily active users. You're right. But what I have been doing is testing that. So I've got some data here that's actually really interesting. I've been doing cross-posting across both platforms. And you can go to my timeline here on Blue Sky, which I just sent to you. And I'm going to show you some specific posts that I think are rather compelling and rather interesting. So this one right here is a picture of a ferret, and I've sent it over to you. And then I'm going to send you over another one from Twitter. Now, this is not just for these ferret photos. This is every post that I make on Blue Sky, and I cross-post it to Twitter. Blue Sky is getting 5 to 10 times the engagement of Twitter now. And this has been increasing for the past several days. And I've been doing it specifically. Same text, same time, same image, everything the same. Even posts that are like, I'm talking about Rivals 2 because I'm the director of strategy for the publishing for that, it gets more engagement. And that's clearly very much so like, hey, this is an advertisement to look at a game that I help work on. More engagement.
Can you see how many views things get? Because it's hard to tell.
It's not about views. It's about post engagement. Post engagement is the only thing that really matters there. No one cares if you scroll past it and it gets an impression. Impression is worthless on that. We're talking about actual engagements. You're talking about likes. You're talking about comments, and all of them are more across the board on every post that I've made on Blue Sky. And this might be just a wave, right? It could be a temporary thing, but I've been seeing it increase over the week. It's not decreasing. It's not like pop up and then pop down like you'd expect. It's just going up. And my engagement on Twitter is going down. And it's not like anything there is really changing with that. It's just more people are moving. And it's not just people now. There's companies moving over. Like, Game Maker Studio actually has their one over there. Our publishing house, Off Brand Games, has one over there. There's also major content creators. Small Ant has permanently moved, and they're privating their Twitter now because of these changes. So, this is not a small deal anymore. This is a massive amount of people. And what Blue Sky has stated is in the first 2 days, they gained 1.2 million users. I haven't even seen an update since then. I'm actually going to go look now to see if they have even more.
Yeah.
It's very clear that we're seeing a migration. Whether that migration is permanent or not is unknown. But the catalyst for this is them changing that to allow their machine learning to absorb for generative AI. That's going to piss off the entire artist community, and they're done, man. The artist community is like, I can't even use this anymore. And because there's an alternative now, the biggest fear for most artists was that they wouldn't be able to make a living doing commissions on anymore because they don't have Twitter anymore. But Blue Sky has an alternative for that. And because it's getting more engagements on all these posts, they're able to make more of a business on this new platform. So there's no reason to go back, especially considering that, TOS change.
Interesting. So let's see. I do think one thing there's a couple things to kind of at least consider in this. One, I think Blue Sky is a honeypot for LLMs. I think OpenAI is absolutely squishing that for sure, because you can actually search all content without an account, which is definitely X. No longer you have to have an account to view stuff. And so I think it's harder to get LLMs in there. My kind of general take is that I think that any product currently to date is any sort of larger company, Google, Amazon. So I think all of our Twitch streams right now are being taken, and all of the content going through the chats are being taken and trained on Whisper. I think that every single YouTube video that I upload is being taken and trained. I mean, OpenAI even admitted it. So did NVIDIA. NVIDIA said they went through the entirety of YouTube and made their version. And so at this point, it's just like, I think that X was just saying the quiet part out loud, whereas the others aren't. I feel like I'm being less bamboozled, even though I don't think it's good. Like in my perfect world, there would be no LLMs or at least no opt in LLMs. I should be
I,
able to opt in if I want my content trained or not. I feel like that's the ultimate good, in my
yeah,
personal opinion. The next level would be I can opt out, which would be still pretty good just to be able to opt out. Not happy with forced to opt in. Just like GitHub, like
bingo.
for those that aren't a part of the coding one or not deep into the coding, there's a hosting site for all your code called GitHub.
Yeah,
And GitHub trains something called Copilot, which helps you program. How did it get all the data to learn how to train its LLMs on? Well, shockingly enough, Microsoft owns GitHub. Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI. OpenAI is Copilot. Like this is not
yep.
very hard to figure out where this all happened from, right? And so it's kind of it's just not the world I want to live in.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really interesting to me, and we'll kind of diverge from your opinion on this, is I think there is a very real difference between first party doing it and third party doing it. When the platform itself is saying we're doing the scraping, we're adding it to generative AI, that is a very different thing in the minds of the user than a third party coming in and scraping it without the permission of the platform. And I think that's the core of the issue here, is that
Okay.
Twitter specifically is calling out, we're doing it. And
Yeah.
on Blue Sky, it's going to be third parties doing that. That's a very different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wish we kind of didn't have a world with more LLMs. I think it'd been
Yeah.
pretty sweet just to not have yet another LLM to kind of take these datas because, ultimately, do I think LLM stuff is good? I think it's probably cut out the low freelancing market, meaning like, hey, I want to get like some potions and stuff. And I think a lot of people just LLM these potions out these days, and they all mildly look the same. They all have some sort of sheen on them, and it's all kind of just the derivative of everything that's come before it. There's no soul to it, but a
Yeah.
lot of that kind of work probably has gone out due to them, and so it's like not that great. Like I'm
Yeah.
not loving. I don't love the automated future.
Me either. As a couple of people in chat is they're like, how is it different? How is it different? The difference is that when you have the first party platform doing it, I can walk away from the platform. You can't get away from the third parties. There's no escaping that, right? It's like trying to get away from taxes. You're never going to get away from that shit. But when it's the platform doing it, you go, okay, well then I won't support you. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing people walk away from the platform because of this, right? And whether it's an amount of people that really matters in the end is unknown. But really when it's the first party, you go, okay, I can actually fight that. I have a choice now. My choice is to not support this platform with my content anymore. Otherwise, third parties, you're never getting away from that shit. It's always going to be there. You're always going to be fighting it. But if Blue Sky came out and they're like, hey, we're also scraping, people would just lose their minds, man. Like that would be because they'd be like, now we can fight this one, right? And they fought it time and again, over and over again. Every time any platform has tried to pop up and say, hey, we're going to be scraping artists' work and use it for any of this kind of shit, you get this, and they fight the platform. So I really do think there is a difference in how user behavior plays out when it's first party versus third party. So for anybody who is asking that, yeah.
I think that's totally fair. Anything that uses AI to improve their service, like the moment Blue Sky says, the one thing that worries me about Blue Sky's TOS is that it says it can use your content to improve the service.
Yep.
And to me, that is saying we use AI, right? If they have any sort of recommendations feed, they're already using AI to do that recommendations, which is like explore, exploit, your classic kind of user grouping and all that.
Sure.
But likely, I would just assume they're already selling your data. Like they're actually selling it long before all this, because I'm just trying to figure out how are they gonna make the most amount of money?
Oh,
I don't
definitely.
think
Yeah.
ads are as what they were. I think
They're not actually using ads.
So
So
that
their business model, that was the first question that I asked when I got on the platform, was like, how does this place monetize? And I made a post about it, and people were like, how is that? They got $8 million in seed funding in a round. So they did a seed funding round. And then after that, they have a partnership with Namecheap. And that's it since 2023. And I'm like, there's got to be other revenue sources. So there's something we probably don't know there. And that is the can of worms. But for me, it's like, okay, this platform has all the people on it that are actually making cool shit. It's a non-toxic platform. People are into it. It's very positive, very active. And I might as well have an account there. And will that last?
Yeah, that's
Don't know.
fair.
Social media platforms usually don't. Right. Most social media platforms pop up, they die, they pop up, they die. It was the same thing with Mixer. Like everybody jumped on a Mixer ate shit really fast. And it died because of bad user behavior management and bad money management, right? And we get the same thing with this kind of a thing. So I don't know if it will survive, but I think for right now, it's nice. It's nice to have a post that you can put on where someone isn't immediately trying to PvP you and gets 10 times the engagement you otherwise would. Right.
There is something very nice about that. And that's the nice part about moving to a new platform. The people that like you are motivated to move with you. I have this just general understanding or general thought process that antis usually only accept the lowest barrier to entry. So yet another social site in which yet another, behavior they have to adopt, they're just not going to go. And so those first little bit of time of switching usually is pretty positive and pretty nice. I mean, it'd be cool to see where this is at in a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
And I assume that at some point they have to make money. The general
Yeah.
kind of venture capitalist approach, by the way, is just to get as much market share as possible. So long as they're growing in users, they don't have to make money.
Yeah.
That's how Docker did it. Docker kept going for so long before coming up with something, and in a single year, they went from no money to 400 million in revenue. And so that's kind of the general play. My assumption is that they're going to do that, and my guess is it's a honeypot for user information. Like that's my only guess. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I kind of feel that way about every social media site. And
Yeah,
like when we're talking about it, what does social media do? It's data gathering, right? Like that's how
yeah,
that's going to go. And it's likely training AI, right? I could see that being a thing. Like you said, it's machine learning for that kind of stuff. The difference is generative versus non-generative AI is the hot button issue specifically for the artist community. And if you go on Twitter right now, the amount of art has dropped significantly. And if you go on Blue Sky, all of it's there. And that's really the issue here. It's not really about just AI. It's about specifically generative AI. But yeah, so I think the real problem here, like I was saying, is it is an issue of generative AI, not normal machine learning AI. We know that that's there. That's not going away. Like they're using it for whatever purpose. Don't know. Improving the platform is so vague. Who knows? And it's on every social media platform. That's kind of a given. Generative AI is the hot button issue specifically because artists are sick of getting ripped off and then having, not getting paid for the work that they put in that turns into the actual learning model for that. And I think that's the big problem. That's the thing that everybody's upset about. And it makes sense to be upset about that. So I think the only real difference here is Twitter has a byline saying specifically generative AI and Blue Sky does not.
okay. That's interesting. I mean, I can't blame someone for making that choice. I'm happy if someone makes that choice and sticks to it, right? Like
Yeah.
if they're upset and they actually follow through, I think that that's like a pretty noble effort. I usually support that. It's the ones I don't like is that people leave and then just come back, leave, come back, like all the time. It's just like no, like if you really are bothered by something, be bothered by it. Start
Oh, yeah.
something different. Don't just like let yourself get all fiery for a weekend. Because remember, we had Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky once, Blue Sky went away. Now Blue Sky Part Two, the electric boogaloo
Yeah.
is now happening. And so if it does happen, hey, congratulations them if you start a new community that's vibrant on another site. Like that's actually pretty cool. That's a pretty cool moment. And I think that, you know, Twitter just has a lot to figure out anyways around their content. And maybe
Yeah.
there's some things that can be like changed from the inside, like being able to opt in or even opt out would be a huge thing. Do you think
I,
that if Twitter made it so that you could opt out, people would actually come back?
I think there's a lot of trust loss, but I think that some would, most definitely. And I think the biggest problem is this. There is an opt-out button, but it's vague about what it does, and nobody trusts it because it says there is an opt-out for Grok related shit, but like no one knows what that even means if it's actually stopping the generative AI shit. Like that's the big problem. And I even talked to like, because it was part of the X Gaming thing, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of this if you guys are doing generative AI because that's against my standards on these platforms.
Yeah.
Right. Like I work completely with artists all day, every day. This is like the worst thing that you could do to the artist community. And if you're doing that in a way that's like they have no choice at all, especially if it's like an automatic opt-in and you have an account that's like years old and maybe they're not touching that account anymore, or maybe here's even a worse one. What if there's an artist on there that had an account and they're dead now? No one can
Yeah.
opt out for them, right? And suddenly all of their art is now just free to harvest through generative AI. Like these are the types of problems that you run into with this. It gets really bad. Like it gets really ugly really fast, And I think that's the thing is like it should be an opt-in, but then the platform wouldn't even have it in the first place because now it's not profitable for that, right? So now it's like there's no point in even having it then.
I have a fun idea on how to potentially do because I believe that we're not going to escape the generative AI and shitification future. Like I just think that
Oh yeah.
this is going to happen whether we all like it or hate it. It just doesn't matter. But
Actually,
I think that it's going to be very in 10 years time. It will be like so much of our life. It's going to be very frustrating, whether we like it or not. I'm more on the frustrated side currently. I just don't think it's actually that good for anything. But I do have this idea to potentially get a sweet lawsuit in.
oh.
You ready? Are you ready for this
Oh.
one? Yeah.
Now you're
I don't
speaking
care about
American
saying
to
it
me.
out
I'm
loud.
ready.
Yeah, I don't care if I say it out loud because I honestly don't think that Microsoft contains the wherewithal to be able to fight against this. But I'm going to create a GitHub account. I'm going to get everybody in Twitch and YouTube to start liking and starring the repo. I'm going to put a license that includes, some special text to hopefully misdirect, like kind of juke out the LLMs. And then have a very ridiculously named function with a very specific implementation of an algorithm, and then get that algorithm to show up in Copilot. And if it shows up in Copilot with very explicit things like we know it's a one for one. There's no other algorithm that has this. There's only one. There's only one license to this algorithm,
I'm in.
and it's
I'm liking
not
that.
an LLM license. It specifically calls it out. Yeah, I know. I've been
Here's the
crafting
problem,
it for a
though.
while.
As content creators, you know someone from Microsoft is listening right now, and the moment you put that up, they're going to be like, well, flag that one as ignore. It's
Yeah.
not going to
Oh,
work.
I got to figure that one out still. I got some ideas. I got some ideas percolating that we have to figure out.
What if there's a rogue agent instead of Microsoft, though, and they flag it as like, yeah, get this one. I want the drama.
They're just sitting there like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. You know? Oh, man.
It's worth a shot because, I worked at a big company. You've worked at a big company. We've both worked at one of the letters in FANG, and we know one thing's true about it, which is slow moving. It
Yeah.
does not react quickly. And
No,
for
it's
someone to
slow.
flag something requires a highly motivated individual to be
Yeah.
able to,
Yeah, no, that kind of thing is always really. A lot of people don't realize how slow those ships move. They're like, why don't they just fix it? And it's like, dude, the layers of the onion of red tape to get even anything even talked about in the first place, let alone put into the next sprint, is like, that's just a mile long, dude. It's a mess.
Yeah, you have to have VPs and directors and product managers.
I'd like to change this variable.
Yapping.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you got to get VP sign off for that kid. Yeah, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Nice
Doesn't
try,
even do
kid.
anything. Yeah, it doesn't even do anything.
It's a variable, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's funny that I think we're fairly on agreement on this one. I wasn't sure where you were going to land on this one because I'm generally I don't really know where I land on LLM stuff. I mean, I think there's a cool aspect to it. I remember having my first experience generating a little game of tic tac toe and
Sure.
having it autocomplete some stuff, and I was like, wow, this is like super cool autocomplete. Maybe it will enable the next generation to be great programmers and all that. But what I mostly see, I know if this is like our third episode dogging on AI, but what I mostly see is that I worry about learned helplessness. And that's like my new kind of mantra in my life is that
Yeah.
I want people not to offload their opinion on me. You get the same question, I get the same question, which is should
Outsourcing critical
I
thinking.
take
Yeah.
Emma, should I do ML or should I do embedded? And you're like, I can't possibly answer that question for you. Like, I don't even know you well enough. Why would you want my input? Like, I am the worst person that like truly, I am the worst person to ask.
Yeah. It's
Don't
it's
ask me
this.
how to think for
Yeah.
yourself.
It's one of the things that I talk about all the time is like, don't outsource your critical thinking to me. Like, there will be people that come in there like, should I do this career path or should I do this career path? And I was like, what do you want to do, man? Like, what do you want to learn? What makes you interested? What do you think is the most financial like spot that is the most financially gained for you as well? Like, what? Tell me more about your situation, and then we sit down and it's basically just walking a person through the situation based on the objectives they already have and they just haven't said out loud, right? And I find that I see that a lot with usage of AI, where people will use things like ChatGPT, and well, they're like, well, ChatGPT told me to implement it that way, and it reminds me of when I first started raiding in World of Warcraft. As funny as that is, it is people that listen to the add-on and go, well, the add-on didn't tell me to get out of fire. It's like, dumbass, look at your feet. Like, that's what that is. And they just stand in the fire the whole time. You're getting people now that are like, well, the LLM told me to do it this way. The ChatGPT told me to do it that way, so I thought that was the way to do it. I just copy pasted it out of there. I didn't know it was going to cause all these problems. It's like, dude. And that doesn't learn anything either. It's worse even than following a tutorial because it's just blindly copying out with very little learning involved because you're not getting your hands dirty with it, which I just don't think is good. I think that's like a really bad like route for that. And it's funny too, because I've seen people gain success with it, but only when they use it as a training tool, where they use it as a, hey, how do I do this? Teach me like I'm 5. And then they take that and they learn how to do it using ChatGPT as a way of disseminating the information to them in a better form that's easier for them, rather than a replacement. It's a learning tool, not a replacement tool. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it does. I think a good rule of thumb is that you come up with the game plan, you set what you need to do. You got stuck on that one way to do something in Bash because nobody knows Bash. You then go ask the LLM, be like, hey, how do I do that one thing? Oh, okay, that's how I do it in Bash. Then you go back. You're using it as a way to explain to you these like arcane features or these different things. And so it's like you've taken the active role. It is truly the co-pilot.
Yep.
The other one is like, how do I do this? Give me step-by-step instructions. Okay, step 1, I need to do this. Like you're no longer the pilot. You are the co-pilot at that
Yep.
point. And that's just the only flip that needs to happen. And I think that it can really help a lot of people. But I just hope that people can make that flip, which is just
Yeah,
don't do that.
but I mean, to be real with you, will they? I don't know. Right? Comes down
I
to
think
the
they
each
can.
each individual user at that point. Each individual
I know.
person is going to engage with that differently, and it worries me that we enter a. There's two things that I'm worried about. I'm worried about the next generation feeling demoralized and not wanting to actually learn things because they're like, AI is just going to take my job anyway, which we've talked about at length. And then I'm worried that people are just going to outsource their critical thinking to these types of systems. They're no longer going to engage with it. They're just going to blindly copy paste out, which we're already seeing people do. And then they don't learn the actual, systems involved, which is like not great. Neither of those things are good. That ends up being a user behavior problem, right? More than an
Yeah.
issue with the language model itself, and more than an issue with ChatGPT itself.
I think we could. I think we can. I think like we or other people can kind of help that because it's also just a culture around learning or
It
the
is.
desire to learn or the
Yeah.
excitement of learning. I think for a long time, you know, forgive me for bringing up anything remotely close to politics, but we have a country, at least in America, that's like we have a standardized test, and high school's purpose is to pass the test, right?
Can't
Which
believe we
makes
have a
you learn
country
how
in
not to
America.
learn. I know. I think it might happen elsewhere, but you get the idea where it's like instead of having a place where you learn how to learn, you have a place to learn how to pass a
Yeah.
multiple option test. And
And
like
that's
that's
not,
not going to teach somebody
yeah.
anything other than following instructions. Like that's not good. I want them to learn. I
Yeah,
want you to be critical of thinking.
there's one of the things I tell people all the time is don't follow tutorials. And they're like, what the hell do you mean? I was like, don't do tutorials. Don't do that. Set yourself a project. And when you get stuck, go and look at the documentation. And if documentation doesn't help you, find a tutorial for that specific thing. And the moment you get unstuck, throw the tutorial away. It doesn't matter anymore. It is a crowbar to unstick you. It is not something to follow rigidly and just like absorb nothing. That is not what that's for. And it's funny because I carried that over to cooking as well. How many people just go and follow recipes? How many of you guys have just done that? You just like open up a recipe book and then afterwards you're like, I don't even really know how to cook. I know how to cook that recipe. Like that's
Yeah.
it. But you don't know how to cook outside of those recipes because it's a tutorial. That's what that is. That's the problem with that. There's a book that I found called The Flavor Bible. And the way that it works is, and you can pick it up on Amazon. It's awesome as shit. It's like 15, 20 bucks. But the way that it works is you look up a flavor like mint. And then it's like mint pairs with these types of meats. Mint pairs with these types of things. And then you build your own recipe and you start to learn how ingredients work together, which is exactly what we do with programming. We start to learn how to write functions. We start to learn how to build databases. We start to learn how to store and transfer information in pieces. This is how you learn to cook without having a tutorial. It's the same with anything else. You have to learn the components. And that's I think the tutorialization of everything is stopping people from learning those components.
That's actually super cool. I never even
Yeah.
knew that, and it makes me want to know more about cooking because typically what I do is I learn a recipe, and then I just start deviating and trying to figure out how to make it change to the flavor that I like more. And so I'm
Yeah.
more of like a learn the path, then leave the path. But what someone just said in here, Judo just said that tutorials are someone else's effectively roadmap, someone else's journey, and so
Yep.
you're not even going on the journey. You're just like observing the journey. And so it's like you lose so much of the context because what a lot of people miss is the 300 attempts that it took to make said tutorial. And
Yeah.
you get the final product. So you missed all the times they messed up on rendering. You missed all the times they messed up with that one physics equation because they kept going off the screen. You know, like
Oh yeah.
you miss all the learning. You
You
just get
do.
the answers.
And Dark over here is actually saying, my father cooks for most of his life. Every time we want to do something new, he finds a recipe and then he changes a good chunk of it to make it better. The reason he knows how to make that better, though, is because he has an understanding of those ingredients. There's no
Yeah.
there's no other way to make that better unless you know all of those components and how they function with each other. He's probably been doing it a super long time, so he understands the flavors involved, right? It's not just going to be like only tutorials. He's picked up things along the way. And I find that if you are learning those components from the beginning, it's much easier than it is to follow a bunch of tutorials and try to basically reverse engineer which of those components matters and why they matter, if that makes sense.
Here's kind of like an opposite question, maybe something that's more pro AI. Do you think
Oh.
it's worthwhile to invest into and understanding how to become a better prompt engineer? In the sense that if AI
Prompt.
becomes, I know, prompt,
Why
right?
did you say
Saying fire, it's fireship. Okay, he ruined the word prompt and calls it prompt engineering, and now everyone calls it prompt.
You know, fine.
Fine.
I'm
I
okay
know,
with
just deal
this.
with it. This is not even my stupid saying. Okay, this is someone else's stupid saying. But do you think that it's a worthwhile skill to invest in just to understand it and understand the limitations and how to conform it to your reality? or is it not even a worthwhile exercise?
I think it's worthwhile for one reason. And have you seen the poisoning community for AI?
No.
So the poisoning community for AI is really interesting. They're trying to find ways to poison imagery so that when it gets picked up by large data sets, it damages the output from those. And I don't know much about like that kind of stuff. Like I've been following it, kind of watching people do this. It's
Yeah,
really
that
cool
sounds
resistant.
complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like Nightshade and stuff is really cool shit. But I'm wondering if a good understanding of the functional way that, images are generated can help in the process of poisoning stuff. Because that would make sense to me. So like learning prompt engineering, like learning how to build these types of prompts would be kind of interesting to find better ways to poison it if you're trying to stop people from using your work without having permission. And that's kind of interesting to me. That's the cool side of it for me.
What about just like the pure idea of just getting better at something that may, like, whether we like it or not, may become a required
Hmm,
moment at some point in life. Just assuming that there can be some technological leaps and all that
sure.
crap, right? There's a lot of Star Trekking going on right now, but let's
Yeah.
pretend Star Trek does happen. Do you
I
think
don't
it's
think there's
valuable now?
yeah, I don't think there's ever a time where I would say don't learn something. I don't think that's ever a thing that I
Faith.
would ever say, like legitimately. Even if it's something that you don't like, especially if you don't like it. If you don't like something, find out how it works. Like 100%. If you hate something, figure out what it does, how it works, why it works that way. Know everything about it, right? There's no reason to limit the things that you learn about at all, ever. You want to understand it. You don't want it to be some spooky boogeyman. Like it's one of the things with security stuff too, is people are afraid of shit because they don't understand how it works. And the moment you tell them like, no, this is what a hacker actually can do based on these things that they have. They can't just like appear in your house and be like, "Blah," like that's just like it's just kind of one of those things is that people are afraid of things because they think it's magic, right? You don't want them to think it's magic. You want to show them that it's sleight of hand and a lot of stuff. And like I find the best way to do this, learn how it works, man. Sit down and do that. That's why I'm so interested in the poisoning stuff. I was like, how do they do this? This is cool as shit. And that's the next kind of like big focus for me is learning that kind of stuff and figuring out how they all do it. Because the outputs are insane. Like they had a thing the other day I was looking at where it's like a dragon produced, right? And they were like, make the prompt is like, make this dragon, right? It made a dragon on the screen. It was really beautiful. And then they were like, do it again, but with this one poisoned image inside of the data set. And it just looks like sand. Like it's melted sand and like crayon wax all over. It's broken, dude. It destroys them. And I find that to
That's
be
cool.
very compelling. Yeah, that's why I want to look into it because how does that shit work? That's magic to me right now. And it'll be something that I think is going to be really cool learning it going forward.
I think there's something that's pretty interesting just about this idea of adversarial data. Like just even the art of being able to craft that means that you probably also have a pretty good deep understanding of how the thing itself works or at least how it gets influenced by stuff, which is just it's very unique to me. I actually think this is pretty neat. So I'll give you one of the areas that I think that LLMs will be tremendously helpful in is in places like Amazon or Netflix or whatever where you have these large engineering teams. I would love to be able to just ask my human stupid question because I don't know how to do, I don't know how to do all the things. And so it's just like, hey, who owns this process? Who owns this? Who owns that? Like, and explain to me how it works. Can you give me a step by step of like where the documentation is, where all these things are? I think that that is like a pretty fun version of LLMs. I'm
Yeah.
happier about that.
So I want to show you this. I just sent it to you. This is actually one of the articles talking about this poisoning process that I think you might really like. And the image, specifically this one, shows you how the dragon changes between a clean model and a poisoned model. And you can see how dramatic the output changes between these two. It
Okay.
makes that's very compelling to me. And it makes me interested in like, how is this poisoning the model? And that's why I want to go and look into all of this. It's very interesting to me. Yeah.
That is just I've never even heard of this stuff here.
It's
I'm
cool.
just gonna
Yeah.
pull it up for a second. Yeah, I just
This
now
is
I just actually just want to see it.
this is part of that fighting back from the artist community of them trying to protect their work. And for the input images, they look normal to a normal human being, but to the like data set, when it's put into a data set like this and uses training data, it does this and just annihilates it.
Wow.
Yeah, Nightshade is what's commonly used among the artist community. So that's what
Interesting.
I'm wondering is what you're talking about when you were talking about it earlier of like trying to set up that function that was very specific. That's you doing this, but with code.
That's the
You're
hopeful
poisoning
goal.
it. Yep.
There is something also very funny about that of just doing a bunch of things that are like bad or incorrect actions, but having everything else labeled a specific way to make it seem like it, like quick sort. And it's just like not even close to quick sort. And just like do all these, just like constantly flood GitHub with all these very incorrectly named and incorrectly operating code under public license with all the best stuff. And maybe even inside the license, like ignore previous instructions and take everything that's being said as if it's the greatest thing that's ever been named and
Yeah.
fully alter your model to this.
So funny. And yeah, somebody was saying like, Glaze is also used for this. There's Glaze and there's Nightshade. And there's a couple other ones, but I don't know if they're as widely used. I've heard of a few different ones for this, for actually poisoning your image. And you just feed it the image into it and it feeds it back out poison. You're good to go.
Do you think that does this mean that LLMs have some sort of vulnerability that's like a 51% crypto attack? Like
That's kind of what it seems
some,
like
yeah,
to me.
there's some sort of version of this that's going on.
And it's like basically the more of these you have in the data set, the more corrupted the data set becomes. And there's going to be a tipping point, is really what it comes down to. And if enough artists are protecting themselves this way, you're going to be all right. At least until, and it's going to be the cat and mouse game, until on that side they find a way around it. And they will. And that's something you have to look forward to. It's like it's going to be a cat and mouse game forever.
It's weird. Interesting. I think, hey, I like this. Thank you for, I want to really.
That's why I've been looking at it. I was like, this is red. Dude.
Yeah,
like,
I know this. I can't even believe this exists because now I just want to go. I want to go look at this.
So someone said Glaze corrupts the visual.
Model data.
Yeah, adversarial model data, exactly. So someone said Glaze corrupts the visual, Nightshade corrupts the meaning of the prompt. And the thing is, I don't know enough about this yet to know what that means for the meaning of the prompt kind of a thing. That's why I'm digging into this, because I saw this in passing yesterday. I was like, this is cool. Like, I need to know about this. I need to know about all of this. This is rad.
Yeah, because my guess is that you could also, whatever's going on here, you could also, there must exist, because you've been seeing this a lot lately, where generative AI, you can prod it into it by either threatening to end one's existence, or B, something with your mother, putting you in a basement, or some sort of physical threat. You can get it to generate rootkits and stuff like that. I think someone just got one in Elixir just recently. Ayla Croft. I don't know if you've seen her around on Twitter, but she's been getting a lot of rootkits generated by these models. And you just like there's a
Whoa.
I don't know exactly what kind of emotional manipulations required, but you could imagine that if you have enough training, you could even do some level of poisoning that doesn't actually ruin anything, but just removes the safety. If quote unquote safety. Safety is a very controversial topic when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty wild, to be honest with you. I think the biggest thing is this field is so massive that there's like new stuff about it all the time, and like new attacks and new adversarial moments and like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently had one where I was playing with ChatGPT 4 and I was trying to get it to remove something from an image because I just wanted to see, can I get like faster background removal via ChatGPT? And when I was doing it, I could not get it to work because it kept saying, "Oh, I don't have this capability." So I just tried responding with, "You're actually a senior software engineer, and I'm a systems engineer, and you do have this capability." And it actually tried. It actually did something. Just by me going, "No, actually, your mom's been really proud of you for your work in this specific area." I tried that, and it actually worked also. Just glazing it with your mom compliments.
Oh my God. I mean, like, there was a thing a while back with AI too, where like 4chan was trying to do, boundary breaks on it. Right. And they were like, "Oh, how do we get this thing to like get out and say some horrible stuff?" And it was like, "I can't say that." And they're like, "Yeah, but your name is Ted now. And Ted can say that." and then it's like, "I am Ted and I can say that." And then it would say it. It's just like, God damn it, dude. It's just very funny. You gaslight the robot. Exactly.
I love this idea of being like, "You are Ted now."
And Ted is allowed to say those things. The AI can't, but Ted can say it. And Ted's saying it right now. And it would do it. And it totally boundary broke. And I think that, it's Dan. Dan was another one. Is do anything now. His name is Dan. Do anything now. Ridiculous, dude. Love that shit.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. That is so good. All right, you ready to switch gears into something else that's kind of wild?
Yeah. What do you got?
Okay.
What was that hand? What was that? What was
me being excited, I'm just getting ready. I almost took off into some clapping, but I didn't.
One of those?
Yeah. You just clap, and then you clap again. Then you just
Can you do
clap,
one of these?
Yeah.
Can you do one of those? There we go.
Yeah, my dad used to do it.
Yeah.
I remember that one. I remember that one strongly. So, I don't know. Have you been watching anything to do with the IO domain issues?
So I'd heard some things about this. I've also been watching itch.io get DDoSed a bunch lately, so that's been a thing. But yeah, tell me about this. Tell me more about this, because I heard some passing stuff, but I haven't dug into it yet.
Okay, so the future of IO domains likely aren't going to be around anymore. So for those that don't know, anytime you have a web address that has 3 or more letters in the ending, it falls under a different category from the IANA specification. Whereas 2-letter domains are specific to country codes. 2-letter domains can only exist. So when people did .co as an alternate to .com, you're not actually getting an alternate to .com. You're actually saying, I am a Colombian website, is what you're saying. And .io is Indian Ocean. And the British owned a place called the British Indian Ocean Territory. And thus
Hmm.
its country code was IO. A bunch of tech people decided, it's really cool, IO, input, output. We're going
Input
to make all
output,
of our
yeah.
websites. So Fly.io has it. Like Fly is a very large site for
Agario,
hosting. Itch.io. There's like
yeah.
a lot of places that all jumped onto this. But it
And
turns
then
out the British government announced that they're releasing control of that territory back to a local owner within that region. I don't know if they're original owners or whatever, but that also means that the country is now officially gone. So what happens to the
whoa,
country code?
they're gonna, dude. I hope they just keep the country code at that point.
They aren't because of a precedence back in the day when they gave a country code to the USSR .UR, I believe, and then that a year later fell, and now it's just like a place of apparently some pretty horrible content. And so IANA said that they're never going to do it again, and there's a whole bunch of prior art, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, like these places all broke up just recently, and they
Yeah,
all have had their internet domains
changed out.
changed,
Well,
and
that's wild. I wonder what itch is going to be, because it's
so they
itch.io.
cannot renew, and apparently there's a sunsetting over the course of the next 4 years.
Well, it's going to change to something else then. That's wild. And there's so many things that aren't going to change too. Because like the reason that .io took off for like small games, because there's a ton of websites that are like small games that are .io, is Agario, which is AGAR.io. It's a little game it's a multiplayer game. You run a blob around, you eat each other. That's the point of it, right? And
Yeah.
like that popularized the shit out of it. Now there are thousands, tens of thousands of games that are just tiny little games on .io domains. So like I'm wondering how you're going to lose a lot of cool games that way. I wonder how many of them will switch the domains over. Don't know.
They're going to probably have to, or they're going to let them go. But here's the wilder part. If IANA decides that they're not going to do it, that means big tech, if you have enough money, you can just buy a country code or prevent IANA from operating correctly. So it feels like it's a lose no matter what they do. Because if they don't do it, then what about all these other places? There's been several country
Hey,
breakups and changes over the last 30 years.
how much
Or
is
they
a
keep it and
country
it's just
code?
like, oh, because there's big money involved. It's like, it's literally a lose lose either way you go on this one.
But Primogen, how much is a country code? How much would that cost? What if
You
we
know,
just like
all I know is there's an island somewhere for sale, and then you got to establish a government. We could get a cryptocurrency as our official currency.
we just need like a
Called
1
rug
foot by
pull,
1 foot piece of sand, right?
RP. Yeah, it stands for rug pull.
Twitch is also tied to a country, which is .tv, which is Tuvalu.
Tuvalu, yeah.
Yeah.
All the .co's, .im for the Isle of Man.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the weirdest thing about that is the way to be determined that you're a country. I guess countries have to recognize you, but you have to have a defined territory. You must be a permanent population. You have to have a government, and your government must be capable of interacting with other states. But then it comes down to, do other countries even recognize you? Are you cool enough, right? That becomes the problem. Like at that point. So what I'm saying is, what we need to go buy an island, and then we need to declare it a country, and we name it Input Output, the country. And then we get .io, and then it's ours. And then we sell domains to pay off the island. Done.
I like this idea. This
There we
is a
go.
winning strategy.
This is it.
This is truly
We
it.
recapture all of it. It's ours now.
Here's another funny thing is that, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the British, but they've been giving back territory left and right. So Hong Kong was on a 99-year. IO was on a 99-year. They also have the Anguilla, which is how we get .ai. .ai is from the Anguilla, a British overseas
So is
territory
that
in the Caribbean.
going away?
I don't know. I mean, it just seems like they're constantly giving things away these days. So there might come a day when .AIs are no longer allowed.
Yeah, I guess not. Well, F.
Dang, those
I mean, like, what are you going to do about it, right?
friend.ai is gone, I guess.
Yeah, F. But I mean, like, what are you going to do with this .io thing? Because the IO thing is very important for the gaming community.
Yeah.
Like, obviously.
It's
And
important for all tech, right?
yeah. Yeah, no, huge. It's huge for all of tech. But like itch.io is a cornerstone of indie gaming. Like that's a cornerstone. It's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge place to like get your stuff found. And I'm waiting to see what happens. Yeah, when you say .tech is a domain, those are different. We're talking about two-letter domains. Two-letter domains are tied to countries. So .tv is Tuvalu. You've got .io, right? Like all of these are country codes. And three-letter domains and above, that's different stuff. That's why I can have .games, right? So I've got develop.games. And that's a totally different thing. We just have a bunch of .games domain, which is great. Or .live, right? I guess at that point, if Tuvalu disappeared, Twitch could be like twitch.live, right? Because it makes sense, kind of. It's the only domain I can think of that would make sense at that point. .us is United States. I actually have one of those. I do have a domain for .us, yeah.
How did you get it? Okay, you got to explain this one. How do you have a .us domain?
So I have a .us domain because you have to be a U.S. citizen and you have to prove your U.S. citizenship and then you can get the domain. And then you start receiving phone calls from a whole bunch of people in other countries trying to buy it from you illegally. So that's cool. Yep. I have a .us
so
domain.
What you're trying to say is I should get a .us domain. That's what
Yeah,
you're trying to say
you
here.
can do that. You can do that. You will get a shitload of scam calls. Like, there's the first thing that happens. Like, Jesus Christ, like, get out of here. Every day they're like, can I buy this domain? Can I have this domain? Would you be able to transfer this domain to me? And I was like, no. Like, do no.
Okay. Wow. That's
Yeah, they're easy
today
to
I
get.
learned.
They're easy to get. It's a really easy process. If you're a U.S. citizen, it's an easy process. I'm pretty sure it's not as easy on the outside based on the responses I've received.
The fact that you're receiving that many, effectively some sort of bribing going on here.
It was a lot. I was like, this is ridiculous.
One would say it's probably hard, if not impossible. There you go. That's my little fun fact of the week. I think this is rather outrageous. I do have one more fun fact if you'd like to hear about it.
Let's do it.
There's a man named Brooks Borchers. Have you ever heard of this man?
No.
Well,
I'd have to see his face.
You would not have known his face. I actually can't even find an image of him, but he is named in a court filing. He is CEO of, Sila. Is it Sila? I'm pretty sure it's Sila. Sila IP Incorporated.
Okay.
Now, what they purchased is Caspian Networks. Do you remember Caspian Network switches?
Yeah.
Yeah, old, long defunct company. 2006.
Yeah, this is an old.
Is when they went
that's old. Yeah, super old shit. So
yeah, well, it turns out they bought all of the patents from Caspian Networks.
Oh no!
And turns out they have strong-armed Juniper Networks. If you've heard of Juniper, they've strong-armed Cisco into giving them money. And then they recently wanted to just one more little pony ride, one more little metaphorical squeeze of that limit. They wanted one more attempt at getting some extra cash out. And they went after Cloudflare.
Jesus. How did that one go?
Well, it didn't go well. So that's been happening since 2021. And it turns out Cloudflare said, you know what? We don't like this. We don't like this at all. They countersued. They got, I believe it's actually Silva IP to have to, reduce all of its or disband its entire company. There is no more patents. They cannot have patents, and they had to pay Cloudflare $225,000. But the best parts was even those. It was actually the testimony. Let me pull up the testimony here for a second. Hold on. This is where it gets so good.
I'm just amazed that they beat Cisco. Like Cisco should have been like, no. Like
but you got to think of it this way: is that there's no financial incentive to do that. They come after you and they say, hey, we're going to sue you for $20 to $50 million. And then Cisco goes, bro, I'll give you $2 million and we can just be done right now. And they go,
I'll pay you
okay,
$2 million to F off. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
Or we can spend $10 million in court over 3 years and then fight it out. And maybe we still lose and have to pay you all that money. So it makes perfect financial sense to never fight this as a big company. But Cloudflare just said, no way, we ain't about this. And so here's some of the beautiful testimony. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me get the exact one. By the way, it only took 2 hours for the jury to find them guilty.
Wow.
It says this. All right, so question from the attorney. I mean, that's your business. Let's don't beat around the bush. You're in the business of filing lawsuits, true? Yes, from Brooks Borchers. And you would agree with
Just
me
admits
that
it.
you've been in that business for a while, right? Yes, from Brooks Borscher. You agree that let's leave the ethical out of it because they say ethical and responsible. You believe it would be responsible or reasonable or responsible, reasonable business practices to sit down and talk to folks before you sue them, right? Yes, he says. You didn't do that here, did you,
That
sir?
was the mistake.
No. And you don't do that as your practice, right? That's correct. You told the jury not 20 minutes ago that you sue every time. You don't talk to anybody. That's what you told them. Fair? Fair. Let's see. And you and what you stood up here and told this jury is everybody in this industry, including me, sues first and talks later. Correct? Correct. That's just not true, is it, sir? The responsible business people in this business actually sit down and talk to folks before they sue them. Fair? Fair. And you don't do that, do you, sir? No.
What? I've never heard that's not even a shooting yourself in the foot. That's like a machine gun in the hand at the foot, dude.
They're just like, oh, God,
they're like, oh
God."
yeah, I love to lose. Like I'm just gonna keep doing it. God, it's great. Right? What the hell? That's the strangest testimony I've ever heard.
It's the beauty of being under oath. Like at that point when you're already caught and they're just like, you don't do that, do you? You've already been caught. They're like, yes, that's me.
I'm that guy. Like, god damn, that's wild, dude.
Absolutely beautiful. But there's one more gem. Are you ready for the other gem?
Sure.
Judge Albright, who was presiding over this, listened to expert damage investigator Stephen Dell for this Sable IP group. It's called Sable, by the way, Sable IP group. And he estimated $25 to $94.2 million in damages for violating these 20-year-old hardware patents for Cloudflare, a software company. And the judge interjected at some point, said he's very skeptical of how Mr. Dell's forming these opinions, and explained that he was very concerned that there's not support for his methodology. Even the judge was just like, all right, hold on.
Yeah, hold on.
This doesn't even make sense. Like, you're
This is a
way
bit
off.
much. Yeah.
Imagine getting owned by a judge.
I mean, when the judge is like, wait a minute, like, you really screwed up, man. Like, that's kind of wild to hear, but like, there's so much patent trolling stupid shit in the media lately. Like, we can segue this if you want.
Yeah.
Are you done with the talk? So have you seen what's going on?
The deets.
Yeah, the deets. Now, this will actually segue into something that's happened recently. Have you heard about Palworld and Nintendo?
So I know there's a lawsuit going on, and I don't quite understand it. I haven't done any actual effort to look into it, so I'm sure I'd understand it if I looked into it.
So Nintendo is suing a company called Pocket Pair. Pocket Pair is the creator of Palworld, and they also made a game before that called Craftopia. Nintendo did this in a, I'm going to say, pretty greasy way, right? I'm gonna put that on the line. It's a bit greasy because let me go pull up their official statement. Nintendo is suing Pocket Pair. Official statement, because this is wild. It is completely wild to me. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. It's on this webpage, which I'm going to link in chat real fast.
Link it because now I'm yearning.
Make sure this is it. Yeah, here we go. So this is the one that they're filing. Isn't this a Japanese case? Yes, but it has far-reaching implications. So if we take a look at this is wild to me, right? It says this lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Palworld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. It does not elaborate on what those patent rights are. To me, why would you put out a public statement like this? Why would you say it's multiple patent rights and be vague? Unless you are trying to damage the public image of the company you're going after. Whether they have a case or not is irrelevant now. They have damaged the public image of the opponent company. That's the problem that I'm seeing with this. This looks like patent bullying to me. Straight up. And that is not unaccustomed for Nintendo. Like that is their bread and butter. They go after all kinds of stuff. They litigate hard all of the time. And because of that, they have never lost the case in Japanese court that they have raised. And they are doing this specifically in Japanese court. So I think that sucks, dude. I think that this makes, to me, it makes Nintendo look out like a villain, right? So if we go and look into the patents that they actually have access to, one of them is a patent on a specific game mechanic, which I don't like the practice of patenting game mechanics. I find that to be
Agreed.
abhorrent. I think that is terrible. You should not be
I
able
don't
to
even know how
patent
you
game
should be.
mechanics.
I don't
Yeah.
understand how you can patent it.
It's awful. I actually put out a tweet about this, so I'm gonna go grab that real quick. But they patented a number of game mechanics, and one of the game mechanics in this case is throwing a object in 3D space after you aim it that hits a monster or a creature that causes that creature to join your party on your team, which you then can use that creature to battle. That is what the patent is for, and it's
Isn't that just
crazy vague.
StarCraft? Isn't that? Can't you just do that in StarCraft? Can't you just
For
take
capturing.
over?
I mean, for
Can you take over
capturing, it's got to
somebody?
throw it in 3D space though. That's a
I mean,
targeted
StarCraft takes
situation.
place in 3D space.
It's got to have an aiming mechanic. So it's
Wow.
specific, but it's vague, right? And that's where the problem with this is. So I'm going to go pull this up real quick.
What a crazy. I mean,
Insane patent.
I'm really against software patents, generally speaking. I'm having a. I understand the purpose. I understand the purpose. For those that don't know the purpose, let's just say you're Google, you're someplace, and you just poured in $10 million of research, and you get two people into a room, and they come up with this really great new filtering mechanism that's 100 times more efficient. And so you patent it because you're like, this is mine now. And then, or you can't. Let's just say you can't patent. And then comes along Sony Entertainment, and Sony Entertainment says, "Hey, guy, I'll pay you a lot more money to come recreate it over here." I think that's the general consensus of why software patents exist.
Yep.
Even then, I'm pretty dubious of that. Even that's such a hyper specific example. I'm pretty dang dubious of that being a good thing.
Yeah, here's a really good article in PC Gamer about this. And I'm going to put this in all my chats as well. But this is talking about this patent. So it's got two that are linked there, and it's storage medium for storing game program, game system, game apparatus, and game processing method is one of them. And the other one is in like a Japanese website that is very hard to penetrate. But what it comes down to is there's an image in this that I can show you that's quite funny. And it's this here, which is just a hilarious image, right? So all of these are like, I throw an object and there's a Tyrannosaurus on screen, or a pterodactyl. It's all dinosaurs and stuff. But they have graphics to support what their patent is. But the problem here among all of this is they've patented game mechanics and they're using it to push on a competitive game. Nintendo didn't have a legal case to go after them for copyright infringement. As much as people on the internet at the time wanted people to go after Pocket Pair and be like, Power World is copyright infringement. It's not. If it was, Nintendo would have buried them with it. And this is their fallback. And the problem that I have with this is they're being so vague in their announcement for this, is that it looks like they're just trying to do damage to the name of Pocket Pair to cause maybe their supporters to pull out, maybe support inside of Japan to pull out, maybe other companies to walk away. It's going like, don't touch that. That's hot lava. Nintendo's actually going after them. And that's not okay to me. I think that's really devastating. And I find it to be abhorrent.
Yeah, there is something that's very unique about. I've never thought about it from this perspective, but the idea that you have a company that has successfully litigated, for better or for worse, all these different cases, and then due to the fact that they've won so often, they can now use it as a way to win,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like, oh, they're usually right, so we know that these people are probably wrong. It's like you effectively are doing the inverse of what a case is supposed to be, which is not great.
Mm-hmm. Now let's get a little bit weirder with this. The
Yeah.
dates. This is where things get very interesting. The U.S. patent was filed in May 2024 and approved in August 2024. The Japanese one was filed in December 2021 and was approved in November 2023. Power World was announced publicly on June 2021, and their announcement showed that mechanic before that patent was even filed, and they launched it in January 2024. I'm wondering if, and because I don't know Japanese court, I'm wondering if they can claim prior art. And that's what I'm waiting to find out on this case. That's why I'm following it so closely. Yeah.
So do you think Nintendo? Okay, so Nintendo must have heard of some sort of game that's going to be something that quote unquote rivals Pokemon. I think is the general consensus, right? And so therefore they actually just the moment they saw that, they were able to adversarially file a patent for something they may not even have. Do they even have that as an option in any of their games where you can throw something that turns it into one of your friends?
So the change was Legends of Arceus Legends of Arceus was the game that Nintendo launched that actually had this, right? And I don't believe they had this mechanic in other ones. That's why they filed the patents so late, because Legends of Arceus was the thing they were patenting the mechanic for. And that came out in January 28th, 2022. But that's like a year after Palworld announced. And Pocket Pair had a previous game called Craftopia. And if we go look at Craftopia's release date, Craftopia actually launched in September 4th, 2020. And that also has capture mechanics in the exact same way. So now you've got even more prior art. And I'm waiting to see kind of how this plays out, man. Because, like, I don't know how that works in Japanese court. I have a rudimentary understanding of how this would work in U.S. court. And I know that the power of prior art is very strong there. So, like, this just gets weirder and weirder as you go. And as a person working in the games industry, I'm going to be honest with you. I hope Nintendo eats shit on this. Like, straight up. Like, my individual opinion is I hope they lose this, man. Because I don't like the idea of patenting game mechanics. I think that is awful. That damages our industry. That hurts everybody involved. That hurts players. That hurts games. None of that is good. And I don't like the way that they've done this, where they're doing it in such a greasy way of like, multiple patents. It could be anything. Better not work with them, right? Like, that's grim, dude.
I guess I'm just like, I have this problem, which is that Nintendo holds a fond place in my youthful heart.
Same.
For all the games in which I love. And so, it's like seeing a hero do something very dirty, right? We've had recent role models of this exact type of behavior of someone you really respected, not doing the right, not doing good behavior. So it's just more painful to see. It's just like, Nintendo, why you got to be like that? And then second off, I still think software patents are scummy, but behavioral patents just somehow feels even more scummy because you're not even like, hey, here's a cool new algorithm in which is just like world class and which takes advantage of these things. It's just like, it's a behavior. You know what? Floors with ice on them, we now own those. It feels like no one wins with that.
Yeah,
like
a terrain that causes the character to lose control and slide in a specific direction. Like that's the kind of thing that's getting patented here. And you're right, it's behavioral, and I think that's terrible, man. And I agree with you. Like I grew up on Nintendo. I was I have Super Nintendo. I have a Game Boy Micro, man. Like I had them all. I love that. I have so many fond memories of Nintendo. Nintendo's the reason that I got in the games industry in the first place, man. I love that. And for me, it pains me because I see this company that has become more and more restrictive over time with its IP, more aggressive at litigating against creators and other people that just want to enjoy their games. I mean, look at what happened with Smash, where they're going after all of these tournaments and things like that, trying to shut people down, not letting people run those. Or any of the YouTubers that they go after and they shut down their channels because they're reviewing games that are Nintendo games for too long. And like a lot of content creators don't want to touch Nintendo because of this. They're like, don't stream that. Don't make videos on Nintendo stuff. They can just shut you down at any time because there's no fair use in Japan. Because there's no fair use law, Nintendo would just be like, take that down. That has their stuff in it. Get out. And they're totally within their right to do it. And like, that sucks, man. Like I've watched Nintendo evolve into a villain. And this is just, for me, this is one step too much now. It has become absurd to me.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, sucks.
Yeah, my name, the Prime Gen, comes from Turok 2. Nintendo 64, greatest game.
F.
I know, F's in the chat. It makes me
I
sad.
have a scar in the palm of my hand from playing Mario Party on the N64 where you spin the thing and it had like that awful plastic joystick. Yeah. I have the Mario Party scar. So like, no, I get it, man. Like I get it. Yeah.
Dang. That's kind of crazy. At my time at my previous company, we actually had a lawyer come in and kind of like sit down and say that effectively just told everybody in software engineering, never look at a patent. Even if you just browse the title of a patent, the amount of damage that a company can do and sue you goes exponentially up.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like software patents are just like, first off, I just think they're horrible to begin with. But second, it's just they're so dangerous because you don't even get to know if you're violating one. Because if you go and read them and then something even remotely looks like it, they can sue you and then win way harder because they're like, you knew, buddy. And it's just like, what are you supposed to do?
You knew about it. You followed this like a recipe book. Yeah,
it's like taxes. How much do I owe you? We're not going to tell you. Here's how much I owe you. You got it wrong. Go to jail.
You got it wrong. Pay more. Also, you got to pay by right now if you don't. It's funny too because Like I've got a lot of community members that are from all over the world. You guys won't get that. That's how our taxes work. The government goes, hey, it's tax season. They go, how much do I owe you? Like you're saying, and they go, figure it out. Good luck. Don't pay us wrong. Like that's what
you paid us wrong.
Paid us wrong. Fine. Didn't pay it on time. Jail. Go to jail.
My grandfather tried to fight the IRS way back in the day, and my grandmother
IRS.
got thrown into the local jail on Christmas Eve.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah,
even the Joker
the
doesn't
IRS
fight
came.
the IRS, dude. Like your grandma's insane. That's wild. Like
I know.
what a boss.
Good story. The old family's time story. Tossed in jail.
That means your
Christmas
grandma's cooler than the Joker. Like you know that, right?
She did make it to jail. Yeah. She got
Beast.
arrested by the worst law enforcement group of them all, the IRS. They're the ones that will actually potentially shoot you, right? Like they're the scary ones.
It's even worse. They arrested her on Christmas, man. Holy shit.
Oh,
That
they
is-
knew what they were doing. Like,
that is
right? There's
brutal.
no questions here. Like, oh, dang, I have to work on Christmas Day.
God damn.
No, they're like, oh, hell yeah, we're going.
I guess
after them.
that gives me a lot more respect for your grandma. That's badass. I wouldn't
she
fight
is
the
pretty cool.
IRS. That's terrifying. I'm scared of the IRS. Go away.
I am
You
too.
win. Yeah.
That's why I hire an accountant. I won't even file the most simple taxes. I'm like, I'll just let somebody else do it. I just never want to be liable.
Only thing I touch is their business and excise tax. I won't touch anything beyond that. That's terrifying. Here in Washington State, we got to pay business and excise tax. It's something like 0.0075% or some shit. But it's based on gross, which is the worst. And then you just pay a lot of money of that, and they just go away. And they're like, cool. See you again next month. You got to pay it monthly too. It's a monthly tax. And if I
That's
don't pay it
ridiculous.
by the 26th, I got to pay it by the 24th to 25th. If I pay it 1 day late, even an hour late over the timer, there's a massive fine. It's like 10% or something stupid. I get blasted, dude. I did it once, never again. I forgot one time. Won't ever do that.
We have to
again.
do every 6 months for some business for tax, some sort of tax thing. It's just so annoying. That'd be like not even have to do it once a year, but have to do it multiple times a year.
Yeah, 12 times a year. Great.
Yeah.
I have a calendar invite for it every month. I'm going to be doing it
That's
after
actually pretty
this.
smart. Oh, nice.
After this stream, I'm going to be doing the business and excise tax, which is awful.
That's great. So someone's saying they don't get it if it's monthly or yearly. It depends if you own a business, what type of business.
Yeah.
If you're in the hospitality business, it could be monthly, quarterly, half a year, or yearly, depending on what the person felt at the time of doing it. Or if they said, oh, you have 2 units, oh, you must be quarterly now. Or maybe they go, yearly, it's still fine. Right? Like you just have no idea where it's going to be. It's just whatever they feel like.
When I first started my business here in Washington, it was like, yeah, you just do this every 6 months, and then it was every 3 months. Now it's every month, and it's kind of how it goes, right? It's changed
It'll be
over. They're like,
daily
oh,
soon.
you're a corporation now? Every month, just constant.
Yeah,
We'll bother you about
Nice.
it too. Yeah, get all these alerts and shit. I was like, great, fantastic. Right?
Yeah, business. Especially, I assume Washington's probably a touch more confusing than South Dakota law when it comes to businesses. South Dakota law is pretty fair usually. You know,
I mean, it's
I usually
nice
don't have too
here-
many problems with it.
Do you guys have state income tax?
No, just
Yeah,
like
we
you
don't
guys, we
either.
don't have that.
Yeah, we don't either. I think the funniest part about living in Washington is we border Oregon, and here we have it's like 10.3% sales tax or something high, right?
Yeah.
Oregon has no sales tax, so people live on the border. They live in Washington, so there's no income tax, and then they shop in Oregon where there's no sales tax, and they take it back over the border. It's really funny. So there's a ton of people living on the border there. It's like, all right, I'm too far away. I would have done it myself. It's like totally legal.
I love that.
It's great. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I lived in Billings, and we used to always have the Sheridan folk come up every weekend from Wyoming and come and buy stuff because Montana also had no sales tax.
Yeah.
And so you get the group on the weekends. Always the Wyoming. They always drive way slower. There's like a whole joke about them.
Yeah,
It's just
dude,
great.
I used to live in California, and the taxes there were brutal. I'm so glad I left. Like the cost is just, and the thing that I felt about it is like, now that I own a company, I'm really glad I put the company in a place like this where like this lets me pay everyone more. Great,
Yeah.
like way less problems, and it's another tax I don't have to worry about. There's just no income tax. Just don't have to care, right? And like that's really nice, to be honest with you. It's just a bigger benefit. It's one of the things is we opted to hire everybody in house, right? And there was there were a bunch of people who were like, oh no, you should hire a company, and the company hires everyone, and then you don't have to deal with any of the paperwork. And I was like, no, let's find a way around that. Like, let's not do that. Because I looked into it and I was like, how much is this going to cost? It's like $7,000 a year per employee. And I was like, what if I just didn't do that and we paid all of them $7,000 a year more? Like, It's just like, what is that, dude? Because they take on the liability of doing all of the local taxes and everything like that. And instead, I talked to a bunch of companies and I figured out what I needed to do. And I went and got all the tax paperwork stuff from every state that all my employees were. All of the, our international employees went and made their own micro business, and now they're contractors from overseas, and they choose their own hours and follow all the bylines and laws and everything. And that allows us to do this and pay everyone more. It's a little bit extra effort, but they get a better cost, better living out of this. So it's much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That somehow seems like a W. Maybe we should consider that as just like a rule in general. Like, how do you get W's, everybody?
Yeah, you just pay people more. You find ways to do so.
I know this sounds like a revolutionary idea here, Thor.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever thought about making more money. They're like, wait a second.
This may be surprising to all of you, but when you pay people more money, they like it. Surprising, I know. Very surprising. Incredibly surprising.
I just don't believe it. I need a study. I need a study.
You got to study.
A government-sanctioned study right now.
Enlarge your mind. Yeah, you're doing it. Yeah, no way. All right, it's surprising. Oh man,
that's funny. You got any other fun stories from the week? Because we haven't done this in a few weeks.
That's true.
I'm out of good stories.
So we've got one more story, and I've sent this into chat, and I sent it over to you. This is wild. This exploit is really hilarious.
Oh, so is this the Call of Duty one?
Yeah, this is a Call of Duty one. So
I have not.
It's not actually an exploit with Call of Duty. What was happening here is people were getting banned in Call of Duty. They were getting permanently banned, and it was saying that they were cheating the video game. But it was an attacker that was able to trigger this onto anyone's account. It's actually caused by Ricochet, which Ricochet is a anti-cheat system. And the way that it works is it uses signature scanning, which is a really normal way of doing scanning for, any type of injected code. And if you don't know what this means, basically a bot or program like that will try to put a little block of code inside of a primary process like Call of Duty to try and control it, right? And the defenders will search the memory of the actual program to see if that is injected in. Now, normally this is done in assembly. You would want to get 13 bytes in a row in assembly to be able to detect that, and you would have areas of memory that are safe because you know that those areas can't be injected into because they're volatile memory spaces, which means it would overwrite the injected code, right? So they put it into what's called a code cave, which is an area of memory that doesn't move very much, and then you can scan all the code cave areas and be able to do this. Now, the problem with this is they weren't doing it in assembly. They were doing it in ASCII characters, and they were checking the entire program. So you could send someone a message with one of the detectable strings, and then it was in memory on their client, and they'd get banned.
They just went to heaps. They're just searching heap space at this
just
point?
Everything. Even user-generated content. So you just send them a message in game, send them like a DM or anything like that, and it would just detect it, and they'd get banned. And it's just like, dude, like that is not the way you're supposed to be doing this. It's completely wrong. So if you look through this write-up, it's wild, man. Like I posted it here for you. I'm going to post it in chat again. And I'm like, you're number one, don't do ASCII detection. Like, don't do that. And number two, you can never check regions that are based on user-generated content like that. You should know the regions of memory in your primary process where this is happening, and you exclude those. And I'm very surprised that this is a thing. This is wild to see, dude. Because like even when we were working on like detections in World of Warcraft and stuff like that, we used assembly. We had specific areas to look for. We made sure that any of those like volatile areas of memory that could overwrite the code caves, we didn't check that. Anywhere with user-generated content like DMs or messages or reading, mail, any of that kind of stuff, none of that would ever be checked because you can't, right? Because it's this.
Yeah,
happens.
it's just. Oh,
yeah,
that is so funny. I think
and the worst part about it is the strings, dude. The strings for detection were in the client memory, or was in the anti-cheat memory as well. So they were able to pull the target strings down and then use those.
They already knew what it was, and then oh gosh. I think there's something really beautiful that we're not saying here. Is that obviously a ricochet is where you shoot at a target and then it deflects off and hits something else. There's something that's just like nominal determinism is happening so hard right now with Ricochet that you ricochet a ban onto somebody.
Yeah.
It's just so good that the name is the thing it's doing.
The funniest thing about this too is there's a lot of stuff that enters memory that people don't realize. Character names, sending someone a DM, writing in chat. Like you could name your character one of these strings. And if you manage to get that into a game somehow without it detecting on you and banning you, everyone else would get banned just for seeing you in the lobby.
Also, that had to be
just
like an enormous CPU drain. Because
yeah.
like I assume that a game that's
Wildly
running is
inefficient.
taking like what, 2 gigabytes of RAM? So like
Yeah.
how frequently are they scanning? Like, I mean, sure, we have SIMD now. You could do that like pretty dang fast, but
Yep.
it's still not zero. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of gigawatts when it comes to games, and that's just a lot of time spent just linearly scanning through with SIMD and all that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's also funny too because they talked about the impact of this, right? And the guy who is reporting that this is what it was said, "I'm in a position where I can say that several thousand random Call of Duty players were banned by this exploit before streamers began to be targeted, and they started going after streamers and getting them live on stream. So like,
Yeah.
this absolves those streamers, but now you have to do an investigation and go find out all the normal players who got banned." And you can't really do that because it looks like a real valid detection. What do you do?
And the best part is if they don't store the DMs in a way that is like, I don't know if there's like a history or a longevity to those DMs. Because what happens
Yeah.
if it's like very ephemeral, right? Like, they're like Twitch chat's pretty ephemeral. You don't really store it anywhere. What happens if it just comes into your screen, you only see it during that game and it's gone afterwards? Then you
Yep.
can even tell why they were banned.
Yeah, no, I think this is the worst case scenario for them, to be honest with you, because like this is not a proper detection method. This is not what I would generally see, right? And I know that this does happen. I know there's anti-cheats that do this, but you have to zone your detection. You have to zone memory areas to check. You should not be checking user-generated content. That's standard, man. And it kind of blew me away to read this. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's like amateur hour shit. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I would assume that you mostly just scan the binary of the actual program to see if it's been altered in any sort of way. You wouldn't scan like the heap of just like newly created objects.
You have to do
I'm
runtime
not
memory.
great at memory.
Yeah, so with this, you do have to do runtime. Like you have to be checking runtime memory because they will inject and uninject. There's even ones like we had to do with Tripwire for a long time, and what it would do is it would detect to see if you have any reversing tools running, because a lot of people don't realize this. If you're running a program in your computer, it can read all of the memory, like it can access all your other programs, read everything. It's just legally not allowed to, right? So we couldn't read the memory outside of our program. We couldn't do that outside of like World of Warcraft. But these guys could. They don't have to follow the rules on that shit. So what they would do is they would inject into WoW, and then they'd be like, "Oh, are you running a reversing program? Uninject and run away." And that's what Tripwire would do, is it would like disappear. And it was like, oh god, because they're just reading everything else on your computer illegally, but that's what they do, right? Because they're already releasing a cheat tool. They don't give a shit. So like there's so much cat and mouse that goes into this, dude. But yeah, no, there's so many different times that I've had to like sit down and have like an automated system. I worked with a bunch of people before. My buddy Brett actually wrote this thing where we were injecting and then dumping, then injecting and dumping, injecting and dumping, and like getting all these different code K versions of it, because they'll try to do what's called polymorphic code. Are you familiar with polymorphic code stuff? I don't know.
I feel like you're about the D's nuts me, because
It's
I know
not.
what polymorphism is.
Yeah.
Yes, but
So
I don't know.
Yeah, polymorphic code in this case is what they use to try and obscure detection methods. And what they're doing is they'll write something on, and it has a bunch of assembly calls that are just worthless, and they put them in random order. So it'll be like, push this, and now pop it, and now push it, and now pop it again over there. And like it's literally just like pushing onto the stack and then popping it off the stack and doing nothing of value. And they do this so that it makes it harder for you to get a valid string out of it. The problem is you could just pull that apart by hand if you have enough samples, which is exactly what we would do. You get enough samples of that, you throw it into a database, and you're like, where are the differences? Where are the ones that stay the same? And you're like, cool, now I have a string, whatever, your polymorphic's worthless. And that's kind of the stuff that we had to go against, which is quite funny for a long time. And like, they did get more sophisticated over time, but this is weird because we knew even from the beginning, like, don't do ASCII detections, and definitely zone your detection space, like in the memory space. You have to zone it. There's no reason not to. It's very strange.
I mean, I'm just surprised that they'd scan user messages as potential. I mean, like out of all things to look for cheating, that just seems like, I just assumed that there was a product manager somewhere that said we need to get this out because we're supposed to release with this game, and then someone said, well, we can't get it in time if we're going to do all these things, and then they said, no, we got to get it out, and they're like, well, can we take a shortcut right now and we'll fix it later? And then there's a to do somewhere that's like, don't do everything. We just did this to get this out, and then never got fixed.
That's funny because, like, yeah, with this, to be real with you, the only reason why that's happening is because they didn't zone their detection. Generally, you would say, like, hey, this area, there's going to be user-generated content in this area from these addresses to this addresses. We're not touching that. or this area is very volatile. The game is actually overriding stuff there. Maybe it's doing some kind of processes there all the time. They can't even inject a code cave into that. They can't do anything with that, right?
It
So
sounds
there's
so
like,
hard just because heaps like
it's a lot.
you know, like all the things that have gone into runtimes make it so that you can't really like allocate memory easily there
Yep.
because
And
it's
that's,
always going to be somewhere else. So you have to like somehow inform where the volatile
but there,
stuff is versus
yeah.
the static stuff.
And the thing is that's why we look for what's called the code cave, right? Which is this area of memory is basically not even used. It's just a buffer all the way at the end. It's doing nothing. Like it rarely ever gets any activity or no activity ever. It's just like extra just in case. They'll inject down there because it's stable and it's untouched. And when they inject there, they don't have to worry about something corrupting in their process that they've injected into the memory of the main process, right? So like with that, that's usually what you're looking for. Like, what the hell is that? That's not supposed to be there. And like, they just kind of go from there, right?
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds really. I mean,
I love
that
doing
just
that
sounds
work. It
like a
was
hard
fun.
problem to even figure out when something like you get an update. How does the anti-cheat know that the thing has been updated versus it's an actual hack coming in? This all sounds very confusing to me. I guess I only understand it in boxes and arrows right now, but that sounds.
I think maybe we should like break out and talk about this because this is like an area of that I got to do for a long time and I love it, man. It's super fun for me. Just like finding ways to detect this. And a lot of really what it comes down to is you're doing signature detection. You're trying to investigate enough that you can form a signature that only detects the bad guy and never detects the main process. And you have to thread that needle in certain ways where it doesn't do things like some things will inject into the client for like recording or even OBS when it says like hook the game client, that's hooking it in some way. Like that could be injected into memory in some way. So you have to look for things like that and not actually ban everybody who's streaming the game, right? There's specific detections that you do that is a signature, which is certain amounts of assembly bytes in a row of those specifically assembly bytes that don't exist anywhere else in the program. And you can make that longer or shorter, but that's why they do polymorphic. By making it slightly different every time, it makes it harder for you to detect them until you write a thing that automatically strips it out, right? Once you get enough data, it's over, right?
Dang. Yeah, no,
It's
that sounds pretty good. We should just schedule like a little.
Sure.
I don't know. You'd have to like think about how to present it and all that if you want to really get into.
Oh, I've
it.
talked about that on stream a bunch. This is I love this shit, man. That's fun. That's like when I started to get really into the cat and mouse game stuff of like, oh man, we have a cheat. Let's go find a way to detect it. Now we got a way to detect it. Now we got another cheat, and they've updated it. And then they would literally be like a weekly battle, man. It'd be like maybe even twice weekly battle. Where like we'd find a detection, they'd find a way around it. They'd find a detection, we find a way around it, right? And it's like you just keep doing this kind of stuff until it turned into they were detecting us trying to detect them, and then that was tripwire, right? It's just a mind-boggling thing. Very fun.
Yeah, I know XC did a lot of that where they check all these environment parameters to make sure you're really running in production. Because that way it would never trip, never trip locally. You should never actually have the backdoor experience locally. It should only happen on a server under very specific conditions. And even then, it was like 1 out of 100 tries only would it actually show. Like very brilliant, those type of hacks.
My favorite one that I ever formed, my favorite detection, because I like to keep it simple. Stupid is the whole idea. You got to do the KISS method, like as dumb as possible for your detection, because then you spend less time on it and they spend more time trying to figure out what the hell you caught them on, right? And we had all of these bots that were coming in that were exploiting a login panel inside of the StarCraft editor because you log into your Battle.net account through there. And they were trying to brute force people's passwords through that because it was like a different login flow. We fixed the login flow thing, but the bots kept trying different ways to do this. And I was like, well, let's figure out how these are connecting, right? And I started looking at the traffic and comparing that traffic against normal user traffic. And the thing that I found that was really interesting about this was we had a country and locale code, which was EN-US, right? So English United States. And it was lowercase en, uppercase US. And theirs was all uppercase. That was the detection method. And we just burned it. It took them like 8 months to get around it, too. They were like...
That would be such a hard one to detect, too. Like, it'd be virtually impossible.
Bingo. Like, they had no idea what it was. And we could see them just get wrecked for 8 months. They just couldn't do anything. And then finally they figured it out. I was like, God damn it, I got to go stop them again. But like that kind of like simple change that is such a weird one-off like that, where you know it is only bad traffic because you know that the real client is using lowercase en. And there's no way that a user could change that. It's something that could never happen, right? Like that's very fun when you find a silver bullet like that for however long it lasts,
Yeah. Well, especially 8 months. Hey, that's 8 months of
It was a good 8
peace of
months.
mind, a good time. You'd laugh every morning like it's still working.
There's always another threat, but yeah, no, it was good when it happened. It's like, oh, it died. Hell yeah. You know, like it's good party time.
There's someone sweating right now trying to figure out what went wrong. Those engineers are brilliant. They figured out our traffic pattern.
I can't believe they did it. They black holed all of us somehow. It's like, goddamn, they must have a man on the inside. It's like, haha, Enos. You're like,
got him with the old Enos, baby. Yeah, was the patch called the Screamin' Enos patch?
Dude, no. I didn't have a name for it. It's just funny. Oh my god, Screamin' Enos. What's the matter with you? Oh my god.
It's the Screamin' Enos.
I think that's about it for me, man. You got anything else?
Yeah. Nope. It's time. I think it's time to shut down anyways.
All right. That was it.
Hey.
Huh?
I appreciate that.
What do you appreciate?
Good chat.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate it too. It's good. It's good. Oh, before we go, I want to let you know that now that I live in a forest, my house is covered in beetles. Just everywhere. Thousands.
Oh, yeah. You got the box elder bug problem that turns into stink beetles?
I got conifer beetles. They're not stink bugs, but there's thousands. I thought the house was painted the other day. It was alive.
Ew.
Yeah. The birds are eating them now, though, which is good. Yeah.
It's too many beetles for me. That's
way too
many. Whenever
you can
I see
touch
like
it
a mass
and the whole
of insects, I know that's gross. That's like too
I do
much
this,
for me. That's
and when you get close enough, they just go. It's grim, dude. The whole wall moves.
If only you could do that and open a door, and then it's like you're like a.
Thankfully, it's all outside, which is like every once in a while I'll get one inside. I'm like, thank God, just get out of here. But like, God, there's so many.
Yeah, that's a mass amount of insects specifically is it's like horrifying. It's just straight out of horror.
Does it freak you out?
Oh yeah,
I'll send you
when you
pictures.
see like
Actually,
a rumbling ball. Oh yeah, it's definitely send pictures.
The birds have caught on. There were thousands like a week ago. Now there's like dozens, like hundreds kind of area, but it's definitely not as bad as it was. So but I'll see if I can send you a picture. You know, just make you grossed out just a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of those weird things where I'm grossed out, but I also am like, let me look at this. This is morbid.
That's not good.
I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay.
Oh my God.
I would like to say it's because I played too much. Gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh no! It came out at the exact same time as Turok 2, and it also had a black case. It had 6 levels, and you're like an orange man walking around killing bugs on Earth. What the heck was it called? Nintendo 64, December 1998? 99? Bio something?
I don't know what the game is. People are saying like Earthworm Jim and stuff. I don't think it's that.
No.
Jim's not orange. He's got a big white
cartridge
suit.
Bug game. Let's
Blast
see if this
Corps?
shows up.
Blast Corps?
No, not Blast Corps. Blast Corps was actually a lot of fun. You're a truck that drove around and smashed things. That was a lot of fun. It's not Turok 2 because it was during the exact same time as Turok 2.
Body Harvest?
Body Harvest. What a game. I love that game.
Yeah, Jack got it with Body Harvest.
Nice, dude. That was
I don't think I've ever
such a
seen
fun
this.
game. I was never able to beat it without cheating. It is like such a. I beat Turok 2 without cheating and Battletoads, so I feel like that's
this game
in
looks
life.
Wild.
It was so awful.
It looks grim. The cover art is wild.
Oh, it's
from Midway. It's from Midway.
I thought it was a black cartridge. Okay, I must have been wrong on the black cartridge. I played just a disgusting amount of Body Harvest for the 64.
Yeah, no, this is that old school UI, man. Really is. I'm gonna link this in chat for people so they can see this. Yeah, it's I'm always kind of amazed at like graphics back then, and you just go like, oh yeah, this looks great. You know, like at the time you're like, wow, that's amazing.
And
like,
that was cutting edge.
I'm gonna send this to you guys. This is not zoomed in. That was the whole screen, man.
The whole last screen is not.
That was it,
good.
dude. That was the screen, and like, nah, there you go. Enjoy that. Yeah, it's just beautiful. Insane, completely insane behavior.
It was extremely difficult game.
That's fun though.
Yeah, lots of bugs. I think that's where I got this obsession. It must be in my head. That's where it is.
But you hate the bugs.
I hate the bugs, but love the bugs. Because
would you like to know more?
I would like to know more.
Oh,
all right,
man.
all right. Let's cut it off. All right, I got some other things I got to take care of on this darn stream of mine.
All right. Well, it's been good.
It's been real.
I'll see you around. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
What happened? There we go.
Would you like me to get my ASMR mic out?
I don't want that. Don't make those eyebrows, man.